everyone. This is Jim Ludwig from Main Street Financial Planning. Our show is Swim with Jim. It's another exciting episode, and today we're going to be interviewing Kevin Burpee from Pride Public Adjusters. Kevin.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, Jim. Appreciate it.
Great.
Glad to be here.
We have some really interesting things to talk to you about today. But first of all, for our viewers and our listeners, what is a public adjuster?
Great question. I can ask 10 people on the street what a public adjuster is, and all 10 of them will say they have no idea. So a public adjuster represents the policyholder when an insurance claim is being adjusted. The insurance company has their own adjuster that they send out. Most people think that adjuster is there for them. That adjuster is not there for them. That adjuster is there to protect the interests of the insurance company. A public adjuster is a licensed individual licensed by the Department of Insurance to represent your interests.
Okay, so now we know what a public adjuster is. Can you give us an example of a case or two where advanced planning would have helped the consumer or the landlord that suffered some damage?
Sure, absolutely. So one of the things that we do at Pride, and a lot of other public adjusters do, is we meet with policyholders prior to a loss ever occurring. We review their policy, we make sure they have the proper coverages in place, and that they understand what their deductible is and what things that their risk or exposure might preclude coverage for. So there's been so many cases where we've gone into a claim after things have gone south and come to learn that the policyholder had no idea that they didn't have certain coverages, or that, say, for instance, things like mold are excluded, or that their deductible was $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. So part of advanced planning is to understand your policy, to understand what coverages you have in place, and to make sure that you're where you want to be when a loss occurs. You're not underinsured or your deductible is too high and so forth.
Well, what are some of the common mistakes that consumers make when it comes to either purchasing property insurance or when it comes time to review their policy once a year when they get the bill?
Well, I think one of the biggest mistakes, honestly, and a lot of people aren't going to like this, is they're trying to save a buck. I understand that people don't want to spend too much on their insurance policy. But unfortunately, you're doing something like tripping over dollars to pick up pennies. Not all insurance policies are the same. Not all insurance carriers are the same. When you go to your agent, you want to be very clear with your agent that you want full coverage, full protection. You can save some money if you're willing to have a higher deductible, for example. But don't try to save money by limiting coverage for yourself or to buy a policy that doesn't protect you fully, such as a policy that's called actual cash value only. You want and you have to have a replacement cost policy. Make sure that your policy covers the full damage and not just part of the damage.
Can you explain to our viewers and listeners what it means if you're not fully covered? What do the insurance companies do?
Well, to not be fully covered, some policies are only actual cash value. So let's say that you have a television set, for example, that you paid $2,000 for. An actual cash value policy would only give you the value of that television if it was damaged to what that used television would sell for on the open market, let's say eBay. It's one of the popular sites insurance companies love to go to. They find this television, they go to eBay and say, hey, I can buy this used television for $500, so we're going to pay you $500. Replacement cost policy will pay you the full value of that television for what it costs to get a new one after at that time of the loss. So that it may be worth $1,800, or you may be able to buy a new one for $2,200. So whatever that value is, you're making sure you get a new one for the full value rather than this depreciated cost.
Insurance companies are regulated by states. So the question occurs to me, are there better states as far as consumers are concerned when it comes to property insurance and claims?
Absolutely, and that's a great question because we're nationwide, so we have claims in almost every state in the nation, and so we get to see a myriad of things that go on with insurance companies and how they're regulated from state to state. So California, we believe, has the best consumer protection laws in the nation. They have the California Fair Claims Practice Settlement Regulations that set forth the standard that the minimum standards that insurance companies have to follow when a loss occurs. Now, if you're in California, like say, example, one of the standards is that the insurance company has to respond to any communications within 15 calendar days. But if you go to another state like New York, Illinois, New Jersey, the insurance regulations are a lot more liberal and say that the carrier needs to respond in a reasonable time frame. Well, who determines reasonable? To them, it might be 2 months. To you, it might be 3 days. So the regulations from state to state are very important to understand, and that's what we do. We let our client know what their best options are when moving forward with a claim.
Well, I really appreciate you answering my questions today. In the time we have left, is there any other advice you want our listeners or viewers to leave with, and what is their next action step?
Absolutely. So what you want to do as a consumer is you want to be prepared. You want to understand your insurance policy. I get it. It's boring as hell to read an insurance policy, but understand the basics, the bare bones of the policy. Understand what your deductible is. Understand what your limits are and potentially items you may be excluded for on a loss. You want to develop a relationship, especially you property managers and large portfolio property owners out there. You want to develop a relationship with a professional before a loss occurs. You want to have your policy reviewed. You want to know what your potential risks are. And companies like us, when we have a relationship with property managers, we monitor your property 24/7 for any weather event that occurs. And we even use a company called MetLoop that will tell us in advance when something could potentially occur to your property, like hail, tornado, wind event, flood. And it's very important. We do that for free. And it's very important because we can tell you in advance how to prepare, like maybe get all your furniture, outdoor furniture inside, put your cars inside garages, things like that. One of the things you don't want to do is to be standing in the rubble, shaking hands, getting to know somebody at that time. It's much better to do it way ahead of time and enjoy the benefits that ensue later when you do have a covered loss.
Kevin, that's really good advice. And we're really happy to have you on our show today. This has been Swim with Jim Ludwig, Main Street Financial Planning. I'll put Kevin Burpee's and Pride Public Adjuster's information down here in the comments section if you want to get a hold of him directly and have any further questions. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Jim.